All right, folks, welcome. Today we're going to be breaking down some ideas, taking them out of the idea vault. It's very fun. Thank you, Zoom. Um, this is like the second part of our funnel. So we start by generating ideas with a podcast. Then here we like chew on those ideas, and then we test them with a lean canvas, and then we run some other tests later. But this is the second step in the process. This is where I guess I should say, we're Gordium. We collect Gordian knots, which are really hard problems to solve. And so this is where we really think about the knots and try to untie them. So we're going to start out today with, we use the sunk cost fallacy when we buy big things. This is from the early days.
Yep.
So Neil and I started, well, be hard to, I don't want to tell the whole story, but one thing we thought about doing, or we did actually, was the year of money. And it lasted like 3 months, but we just thought about problems related to money. And this was one of them that we ran into, is like, it's really hard to figure out if a big purchase is going to be worth it, like ahead of time. So yeah.
Yeah. And then we keep these things around
Oh yeah.
when they still have value. You know, like I bought a DSLR camera and I don't use it. I don't really like it. And, you know, I could turn around and sell it on eBay, you know, and, you know, recover, you know, a couple hundred from it. Right. But I would lose, you know, some of that. But right now I don't use it at all. So I lose all the value.
Interesting. I hadn't thought about it through that lens. Yeah. So we like hold on to objects that still have lots of value, but don't have that much value to us. Like sunk cost. I really like some of these solutions, like a reflection tool that prompts you to rate things over time. I think that would help.
So I guess, you know, looking at those solutions, I see sort of two different prongs. One is getting better at predicting
Yeah.
what purchases are useful, right? So like that reflection tool, you know, if I, you know, get a list of all my purchases I like and ones I don't like, you know, I can say, okay, I like the drone and I don't like the camera, you know, this is good and that's bad. Then I can go in the, you know, I have thought more about it. So when I say, okay, I'm thinking about getting this, and it's like, well, you know, I'm thinking about getting a PS5, and it's like, well, I bought a Switch and I sort of regret that, so I'm not going to get a PS5.
Yep. Yep.
And then the other one is to prompt you into recovering some of that value, right? Yeah. So yeah, knowing the value of those things. Right, like you could integrate that with, you know, like Craigslist or eBay, you know, to find similar things and see, you could see what they're selling for. And then the other, yeah, so in some places they use a red tag system where,
this was from your work.
yeah. So if there's ever like a something that you aren't used, you can write a red tag for it and then move it to a red tag area. And then sort of that red tag area is, you know, it becomes free to anyone else in the organization, right? So say you have 2 chairs and you're like, well, I'm only one person, so I just need one chair, I can put the other chair there. And then if Jimmy, sees that his chair is broken, he could then go and take that chair. Um, and then that, if something sits in the red tag area for a certain amount of time, you can just get rid of it.
Yeah.
And I think that'd be interesting, in like a house where, there's furniture that you don't really use. Right, like coffee tables, and
Oh,
it's like, what if there was always this downward pressure of red tags that got rid of things.
yeah, I'm just thinking about, I have this like, so there's like a dumpster by my apartment that people effectively red tag things, and I like took like a stool from it,
Mm-hmm.
and I love the design of it, but I've never used that. Like, it's like a footrest. I use
Yeah.
it to put my clothes on occasionally. Like, that's the most use it gets. And then I have this like fold up chair that I also have that all it does is leave blue marks on the walls, which is really annoying.
Mm.
And that immediately comes to mind, but I never think about giving things up, or at least I haven't in a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's pretty crazy that there's not really any downward pressure.
Yeah. No, I think you're right. Uh Consistently. Like, I had a coworker who did like a digital minimalism, or like a minimalism journey, where you have to give away one item for every day of the month. So like day 1 you give up 1, day 2 you give up 2, day 3 you give up 3. And like, super interesting but not repeatable and not
Yeah.
consistent. But this could be really, yeah, repeatable.
Well, and then that also, I think, could lead to regrets, whereas the red tagging has
Oh,
some
yeah.
some amount of grace period
Where you
where
decide.
where it gets red tagged, and it's like, okay, if I don't use it in a month,
uh,
then I get rid of it. Well, it's not like a rash decision.
that's true. I'm loving delays. So I'm using the bullet journaling, and it like forces you to like delays with that are time boxed. So like I like write everything down, and then every month I have to move it into the next month. And so like every month I have to reflect, no matter what, on something I
Mm.
put aside. Like, uh, yeah. What connection? I feel like this could be really connected in interesting ways.
Um,
I think this is an interesting case of money is intangible. Like, we don't understand how much the things we don't use are worth. It's
yep,
really hard to connect that value to an item.
yep, yep.
Mm,
Could this be a permutation of the how much do you think about it app?
I think so.
It's sort of like the negative of it, right? It's like, how little do you think of it?
Yeah, like, yeah. Oh, almost the inverse of this. And yet still under the umbrella of how to make decisions. Like, I think we're running into a lot of these things that relate to decision making, which then relate a lot to Noise by Daniel Kahneman, and I think like Anti-Fragile by Taleb. Like, those are two lenses for making decisions. Like,
Mhm.
just a bit interesting to think of an Anti-Fragile. Like, okay, so for each item, like like for each item, what is the downside of ownership versus the upside of getting rid of? That's an interesting question to think about. Like, I think in interesting ways, like maybe even holding on to things has like an unlimited downside. I don't know. It has a very limited upside each way. These are like very at best resilient decisions, at worst fragile ones.
Well, I don't
Ooh.
know. I think space is important,
Mhm.
right? And if you've got, you know, some coffee table that is taking up a couple square feet, and every time you see it, you get a little bit of disutility
That adds up over time.
that
Yeah.
adds up over time.
And mm, it's almost asymmetric in the opposite way of you would want. Like there's a lot, like there's consistent downside that like grows over time. And then the
Hmm.
upside of getting rid of it is very limited,
Yeah.
as is the upside of like having it.
Yeah. It's concave down.
So, oh, that's an interesting. So it is anti-fragile in the sense that like you're getting rid of a negative, which actually like this connects to removing negatives,
Yeah.
which is a sweet connection. Yeah. That was like surprisingly interesting. Uh what about our tags here? I think this is like a product track.
So I don't know how to classify this, right? Because,
Mm,
if we go like some VR or AR
mm,
route, that would be a
a
product
product.
track.
But if we
I
build out a process of red tagging, that's a studio.
Yes, I think this one just needs to get. I think this one's rich, but
Mhm.
it's not anywhere yet. It needs to go through,
Oh,
another permutation.
it's lacking, right?
Yeah, which is weird that it's both rich and lacking.
Yeah.
Like this one would be a great one, I think, to chat with, or like to
Ooh,
do a brainstorming, or chat with someone, or
brainstorming or a podcast.
yeah,
Yeah, I think you're right. This needs more refinement in those specific ways.
yeah.
I think like I want to add podcasts, like ideas that are big and rich and general enough to have a discussion. All right. And that is all we have time for.